Okay, so we're going to turn over to our presenters now. We're going to be hearing from Debbie Lewis, the Resource Planning Analyst in OSU Extension Learning and Organizational Development. And also presenting will be Jesse Buxton, Fiscal Officer for OSU Extension Operations.
Is that my cue?
That's your cue.
All right. So literally 10 minutes before we were starting, my computer completely shut down on me. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have to get a new computer. But if I happen to disappear, Jesse knows that he's supposed to start improv. So I hope you learned a lot from that improv session yesterday, Jesse. But to try to cut down on it, I will probably go ahead and stop my video, and hopefully that will prevent it from shutting down. Fingers crossed, but I don't know what's causing the issue. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my video, but I will start my screen share.
And everyone else, you can feel free to mute your videos as well, unless you want to come on and ask a question. I know sometimes that helps with the bandwidth issues that people may have with their connections. So.
All right, can you guys see my slides? And are you seeing the slide or are you seeing presenter view?
We got the slide, Debbie.
Just the slide. Thank you, T. I heard that voice. I recognize that voice. So we're here, Jesse and I are here to talk about Qualtrics and NelNet. And how you can use these two tools to help you track your registrations. Now, NelNet, we realize we can use for other reasons as well, but mainly we use Qualtrics to track our registration. And this is just a way for us to use NelNet so people can pay by credit card for registering for a program or a workshop. So a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to have an introduction, just a basic introduction to the concept of how this actually works, the types of surveys and templates that will be available for your use. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the URL redirect Excel macro file. So what I've done is create a macro file that makes it easy for you to generate the URL that performs all the magic of redirecting the survey respondent to the NelNet system with all of their responses enclosed in there already in the NelNet form. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about communicating with registrants and office personnel. So that URL redirect, what we're doing, when Jesse introduced the concept of like how to use NelNet, he talked about using your general county NelNet website to put at the end of a survey so that everybody could be redirected to use that. Or you could send that to a person and tell them how much they need to pay for an item or a service, and then they can use that. But the issue with that is there's nothing that's automatically filled into that form. So that's not really an issue, but that is what happens. So when we're doing the URL redirect using Qualtrics, like I said earlier, it takes all of the registrants' information that they've input into the survey and redirects it to and autofills that NelNet form. So the different types of templates that we're going to have available, basically we're going to have 4 different payment options on the survey. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time in just PowerPoint kind of introducing the concept, and then I will go show you things in Qualtrics. So we're going to have 4 different payment options. We'll have a NelNet option, check, cash, and invoice. The templates will be able to be edited. So you'll be able to change things, but you just need to be careful on what you're editing, because you will need to update certain items on the survey to, compensate for whatever edits that you might do to that survey. So our basic template is going to have, it's going to collect their contact information. So like name, email address, if you need a phone number, if you need a mailing address. So we'll collect all that information. It will also have the ability for them to select a certain session. Then it will use something called a recode value to tell NelNet how much to charge their credit card. And this is going to be, it's called basic because it's one price. So you have one price if you want to sign up for, let's say, ServSafe level 1. You have another price if you want to sign up for ServSafe level 2. So it's kind of basic. Then we're going to have an option for group registrations. So that's kind of going to be that basic template. Plus, we'll have the ability to do a file upload. So for example, my example on this one is we have the Ag Lender survey. I don't know if Deb Walters is on the call today or on the session today, but they had banks that were coming to an Ag Lender's presentation workshop via Zoom, and they wanted those banks to be able to register, for example, 35 people at a time. So we would add a file upload question where a person like from the HR department could register multiple people, giving their contact information in one Excel file instead of having each of those employees go to the Qualtrics site and fill out that registration. Then we'll have an option for quotas. So if you are, for example, right now, if you're doing an in-person session or teaching something that's in person, we have a limit of what, 25, 50 people right now. I can't remember what the number is, which is bad. But there is a limit on how many people can be in a room at the same time to attend a session, an in-person session. You might also have limits on just the number of people that you can offer to, pick a certain item, or say you have a limited quantity of something available for people, and you need to cut that off after a certain number. So that would utilize the quota feature in Qualtrics. And then we're going to have a more complex version. So this would be the basic plus additional, maybe you have some additional items to purchase. The example I will show you for this one would be the Master Gardener Volunteer statewide conference. They could pay for their registration, but then the keynote speaker was also offering her books for purchase. Like they could sign up to get extra books sent to them that were autographed by the keynote speaker. Then we're going to talk a little bit about communicating through email triggers. We need to make sure that if you are not the fiscal support staff person in your office and someone opts to pay by either check or cash, and that person needs to be looking out for an envelope or a phone call from somebody who is registered, we need to make sure that we set up a Qualtrics email trigger to notify that person. Likewise, if they're the person that is supposed to be getting the NelNet receipt, they need to make sure that they're looking out for that payment from the registrant. Because what happens is, and one of the questions that we got beforehand was, can we make sure that they pay for the camp or the class or whatever it might be before they are done with their registration? So unfortunately, with this pass-through and this redirect URL, it makes it so that they are registered, but on all of the email triggers and on the survey, multiple places, it says that you are not considered registered until payment has been received. So Jesse, do you want to address that anymore?
Yeah, so one of the things that we can do, right now with any of our registrations that we're doing, and receiving check or cash for, we have to do some sort of reconciliation against our registrant list to make sure our folks have paid. And so the same thing is going to work with the NelNet credit card payments. So the fiscal office associate, office assistant will get copied on the email receipt that the registrant would receive for their payment. And we can do some various things to make sure that that receipt gets forwarded on to the program staff or educator that's putting on the program, so that we can reconcile that payment against the registration. We can utilize some Outlook rules for that. We can have the email automatically forwarded based off of, say, the subject line or something like that. So we do have some options there to help with that reconciliation process.
Thanks. And the last type of email trigger that you need to think about are your confirmation for the person who has registered. So they would get a confirmation email from Qualtrics, and we would set up an email trigger for each payment type that you have available on the survey. So if you have people select that they want to pay by check, they'll get one email confirmation. And then if they say they want to pay by NelNet, they'll get a different one, email confirmation. I'm going to switch my share here. So let me know how we're doing. Can you see my
Yep, we're seeing
Qualtrics account?
Yep.
Can you still see it? I moved it from one screen to another. That's why I'm asking. Okay. So here are some examples of the NelNet surveys that I've been setting up so far. One of the things that you'll see on here, for example, we're considering creating separate templates, for example, like 4-H card teams, where they're having to collect information not only on the youth, but also they need to have information on the parent. They might need to put a court ID number in there and that type of registration. So there's some other considerations with 4-H card teams that we might need to think about. So we're going to try to develop some of those larger statewide programs. We're going to probably have some more specific types of templates available. The templates will be available in the OSU Extension Library, which is why those of you who had not signed up or upgraded your Qualtrics accounts yet got an email from me on Wednesday asking you to upgrade your account, because I cannot add you to the OSU Extension user group until you have upgraded your account. So make sure if you got that email from me that you go ahead and follow those steps so I can add you to the OSU Extension user group. When you get added to that group, I send a follow-up email and give you instructions on how to use a template that might be in the library. So if I want to come over here and create a new project, so again, the templates are not available in the library yet because we wanted to make sure that we had the session today before we actually launch those templates. So look for them next week. So I'm gonna come over here, and when I'm on my home page, I have this button that says create new project. So I'm gonna create a survey. And then I want this to be a Master Gardener volunteer registration.
Debbie, we're still seeing your the main Qualtrics page with all the existing projects listed.
Okay, thank you. I will do a new share then and just share my monitor. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the warning. I appreciate it. Okay, so at least I didn't lose you yet, though. I clicked on the I don't know if you saw me click on the blue button that said create new project, right? Here, let me just go back. All right, so this is what happens after you say create new project. You're going to click on this survey button here. Jesse?
Yep,
Still
we're seeing
seeing
it.
this?
Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you. So I'm going to call this one a Master Gardener volunteer registration. I don't want to start with a blank project. I have templates available to me. So I'm going to go to the From a Library. And then I will select the OSU Extension Library. And like I said, these are not here yet. But when they are here, we're going to have a separate folder that is called NelNet. Okay. So I'm not going to go ahead and create this one, but you'll see a folder option here that will be a NelNet folder option. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my list of surveys. So I can show you some of the, sorry, so I can show you some of the ones that I have available. Okay, so first I wanted to show you that basic one that where they just select the session and it uses that recode value, and talk a little bit about what that means for recode value. So this one was for Master Gardener Volunteer for Brown, Claremont, and Highland counties. The first question up here on the screen will be something where you're describing what it is that they're registering for. So make sure that that's included in here. If you know the dates and times, go ahead and put that in this first question. Then it has the contact information. Since this was for multiple counties, it asked which county they were from. I do have a question in the OSU Extension Library that asks which county you live in, and it has all 88 counties in it. So if you would prefer to use that question, you can import it into your survey. It also asked for their shipping address, and then if they needed any additional accommodations. So we need to keep, make sure we keep this question on the survey. The difference would be, this was a virtual training, so it wasn't actually in person. So the type of example we give here was the live closed captioning. You might say interpretation would be another example of additional accommodations a person might need. Now, if this was an in-person training, we might need to change this to be to read something like handicap accessible building, and interpretation might be still something that someone might need. So make sure you keep this additional required accommodations question on here. And then we have a reg data block. This is collecting their race, ethnicity, and gender information. So these are the standard questions that we ask. We also have additional questions of how old are you a veteran, do you have a disability? So if you're going to delete any questions off of this reg data block, we just ask that you keep the 3 main questions. But for example, if you're sending this out for youth to register for something, then probably are you a veteran is not an appropriate question. If you've already asked their age above in the registration portion of the survey, then you probably don't need to ask the age again. And then we have another block down here for submitting their actual registration. So for this one, the payment options were a debit or credit card. They could pay by cash or they could pay by check. We get some little errors here because sometimes it doesn't like to do in-page display logic. All this means is that if a person has selected the credit card option from the previous question, so if in Q13, if they said, they wanted to pay by debit card or credit card, then they will see this question appear on their survey. They will not see the other questions. If I wanted to pay by cash, this is the only question that I'm going to see. And then if they wanted to pay by check, they'll see this question. So you will be able to edit any of these questions in here. For example, this would be more generic, where they are given options of how to pay cash in person. Clearly, you're not going to pay all cash to Brown County Extension Office, although I'm sure they would appreciate that. You're going to have to adjust the information on some of these questions. Because I have to make it a general template, you will still need to make some adjustments to the different questions, which is very simple. You just click on the question, come up here to Rich Content Editor, and then you can edit that question. Just be aware whatever it looks like in this screen is probably not what it's going to look like on the final template, and or final survey. Online, and that's what I'll show you in a second here when I get to the preview button. So I forgot to announce my disclaimer at the beginning. We're presenting the session like you have a basic knowledge and understanding of how to use Qualtrics. If you do not, that's fine. Please stick with us. I'm just giving a demonstration of this. If you need more information, we are here to help. Brian Butler in my office, T. McCoy, we all know how to use Qualtrics really well. There are several people on this call today that are really super users of Qualtrics, and they can all be here to help you through this process. I have another option. So for example, if I said originally that I want to pay by check, and then I say, oh, I don't really want to do this. I want to pay by credit card instead. They can still make this second, pick this second option here and say, I made a mistake. I prefer to pay by credit card or cash. And then they'll see this question appear, and they would go back to the original payment selection question, select a different option, and then move forward. This question I have put onto the survey, and it's to help you build that URL. I've changed it a little bit, including the fact that I created an Excel macro file that will help you generate that this URL redirect a little bit easier. Then we have a final one down here, giving any last minute information, what else they need to know, and that they need to click the submit button below to submit their registration. So let me give you a quick demonstration of what this one does, and I'll apologize in advance to James Morris because he's probably going to get some email triggers. So I'm clicking on the preview button in the upper right-hand side. So this is what this particular registration survey looks like. So you can see that information. And it doesn't look the same as what we just saw on the screen, right? It's following the template that has been applied to it. So on the templates, these types of questions will be required. And I've also made it so that they have to put in like a valid phone number, meaning a 10-digit phone number, and they have to provide a valid email address, meaning an email address that has the @ symbol and structured like an email address. I'm going to go ahead and select my county. I'm going to put in, a shipping address. This is another field here where I've made it so that they have to put in a valid zip code. I'm skipping through these questions because the reg questions are not required questions. And then I'm going to go ahead and select this credit debit card so we can show you what that looks like, right? So it's telling me I have to pay $150 for the Brown Master Gardener volunteer training. And then this is telling me that I have to pay by, or I want to pay by credit card. Then I have to select the first option below. And that tells the NelNet how much you charge the credit card for. And then that final, like, here's some additional information. It's a Zoom meeting, so you're going to get a link, when you're going to get the link, and who it's coming from. So I'm going to click submit because it's telling me it's not submitted until I click that submit button below. And then this is showing me that I'm being redirected to, hopefully, yes, the OSU Extension Brown County NelNet page. And it's got my information filled in here, first name, last name. This is from the option of selecting that I wanted to pay by credit card and clicking on that first option below the credit card. This is additional information. I've had it display, you know, that county selection choice so that the person that is getting the NelNet receipts knows which county should get this, this money. Because I think for this particular registration, there was the 3 different counties. So the person that was in charge of the Brown County NelNet account was parsing out, distributing the payments to the other 2 counties. They just kept it simple by directing everything through the Brown County account. It is filled in how much my credit card will be charged. And then also on this page, it is filled in my billing address. Now, on that particular survey, it's asking for the shipping address because James needed to ship some program materials to the registrants before the session started. So that question says, if your billing address is different than the shipping address, then please be sure to correct it on the NelNet site. So that brings me to my next point, is any of this information can be changed by the user. So just be aware of that and make sure that the person who gets those NelNet receipts is confirming that the person paid what they were supposed to pay. You can see my phone number is down here at the bottom. So for example, they could change this if they wanted to say only $50. So just be aware that that needs to be a consideration, that people are on the lookout.
Yeah, it's
just
really
so
hard.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, it's really hard to do the coding to lock that down. So, I mean, I don't anticipate this being an issue on 99.99% of the registrations that we receive, but it's just a good idea to make sure that you're reconciling the receipt that we receive or the NelNet report that you may get from your office associate, and make sure that the folks that registered and the amount they were supposed to register for did pay the amount that they were supposed to pay.
right. And if I had my email program open, you would see me that I'd gotten a confirmation email. So let me show you a little bit about on this survey where the URL lives for that redirect feature. So when you're setting up your registration survey, the last thing you're going to do is set up this URL redirect under survey flow. So I'll click under survey flow, and then I'll have to set up a branch. So the branch would be if someone is paying by credit card, you can see here, is selected, then we're going to go to an end of survey type of survey flow. And then we're going to customize this. These are your end of survey options. You can do a default end of survey message. You can do a custom end of survey message. But here we want to do that redirect URL. And this URL is extremely long. And I will show you this on another example when I show you a couple of the other surveys that I said I would show you, the template types. But that's where you're going to put that, that redirect URL. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on Save Flow. On one of these other ones, I'll probably show you what the email triggers look like. So the next one I wanted to show you was that, that group registration option. And I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of that Brown County payment before I forget. Okay, So for this one, this was the Ag Lender Seminar example. So same kind of thing here, information at the beginning saying, announcing what the program is. This one they put topics and speakers because they were having different speakers show up. And then had different contact information for all the hosts for the event. But we still needed that information about their first name, last name, email address, phone number. With this one, we also added the company name because we wanted to know which bank they were coming from with attending this seminar. And then this is where we set up the multiple registrations. So we have if they had to pay for, 5 people, this survey is doing math behind the scenes and, calculating the cost it will be for $25, 5 times 25 is the math that it's doing. So I will show you that as well. So again, it has that explain required additional accommodations. And it has those options of the check or credit card. This one, they have a credit card terminal in their office. So they opted to include a call the office to pay by credit card. We're not encouraging this at all. We're encouraging the use of NelNet and paying through NelNet for that credit card payment. They also offered the check option. So again, they have these questions down here. With this one, we used pipe text because if they paid for 5 people, then their cost would be different than somebody who's only paying for 1. Oh, and I forgot to show you the file upload question. So if a person said they were registering for more than 1 person, so up here you can see the display logic for this. If including yourself, you plan to attend, how many registrations, the text response is greater than 1, then they saw this file upload question, which basically tells them to create an Excel file and upload it to the question so that it can be received and those people can be added to the registration list because they will obviously need the Zoom link, right, to participate in the session. And again, this has the payment options I was just showing you. Has the, if you selected the wrong payment type, you can go back to that payment question, and then that final, here's what you need to do next. So for the math problem in this one, where it's saying how many do you need to register, that would also go under survey flow. So this survey flow is going to look a little bit different than the one I just showed you for the basic survey. So here we are calculating how much the total cost is going to be, and then how much the NelNet price is going to be. Something I didn't mention on that first survey is the NelNet price is going to be in pennies. So it's 2,500 pennies to attend. So those of you who are fiscal people, that this is the way these things work, right? So this would show up as $25 on the NelNet page. And then again, it has that survey flow at the end, that end of survey flow where it has that link. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that because I didn't change anything. So let's see. So this one is the one where it has the recode values because again, it's the credit card option, credit or debit card. And that's really the only time we need those recode values. So if you click here, you can see that I've applied a recode value on this one. So this is going to be 2,500 pennies, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and close that. So that's if they've selected just the one. If they selected multiple, then it does the math for them. Because that's pulling in from the embedded value that I created, the embedded data field of total cost. All right, so let's just take a quick look at this one. I believe this one's already over, so. Okay, so this one I want to, let's say I want to register 3 people. So this is giving me the option to upload my file for the participants from the best company. And again, it's used pipe text, so it shows whatever I entered from that first question, it shows in here. This has done the math for me. And it's telling me how do I want to pay the $75. And I'm going to go ahead and select that credit card option again. And it's telling me here, I've got to pay $75 because I'm registering 3 people. And then I click the submit button here. And sorry, Deb, if you're on the call, you're getting an email. Okay, so again, it's got my information here. This is piped in from one of the questions. And this has additional information in the URL because I wanted to make sure that they knew how many people they registered, which in this case was 3. So you guys already know what's going to show up on that second page. A little bit about these 2 fields right here, the items, services, and the additional comments. Those 2 fields I know have a character limit of 50. So if you have, if you're trying to redirect something that is a novel, it will not appear here. It's limited to 50 characters only. So you want to try to make that whatever they're clicking on to populate this as short as possible. Any questions so far? I know I'm kind of going through this a little bit fast, but Suzanne?
If you have something like this where you've got a bank that they're sending 10 people, is there a way to get the names of those people? And then the second part of that question is, what if they come back a week later and says, okay, I want to swap out this name with that name? That's quite common.
Okay, so the file upload question, that's how they would upload their names. So this one here since it has that multiple registration, we have a file upload where it gives them directions. Please upload an Excel file containing the first, last, and email address of all the registrants, of all the people that you want to register. So if they need to make any changes, I would say that would be something you can add an additional note on here that says something like, please contact the information or the office if any of this information changes. You can also put that into your email trigger. To say, make sure you contact the office if any of the information changes. Okay,
thank you.
Let's see. I wanted to show you the email triggers. I can't remember what the email triggers look like on this survey, so it's going to be so you're going to go under Tools, Triggers, and Email Triggers, and you can set up multiple email triggers. So this is the subject line, action required, for the 2020 virtual ag lender seminar. And that's basically how I started off all of the email triggers, was that they need some kind of action. Even if they paid with their credit card, because of the fact that it's redirecting them and they are technically receiving their registration confirmation before they've actually paid, because those 2 things happen simultaneously. They get their email trigger and then they also get their NelNet, get redirected to that NelNet site. They still need to make sure that they've paid by the registration deadline. So that's why it still says action required. It's kind of like, make sure you've paid. So these have the different email trigger for each payment type. And then we also set up a email trigger so that Deb would be notified if somebody selected that they wanted to pay by a credit card over the phone. And then we set up a separate one if they wanted to pay by check. So she knew to be on the lookout for a phone call or you know, an envelope from a person. So I'll just, you know, show what these basic things look like. So you're going to set up a 2 email address. And I believe in my communicating through Qualtrics training, I went into more depth on how to set this up. But basically, you want this to go to the person who has registered, right? So you have to set up a piped text. And anytime you see this dollar symbol with the curly brackets and information in between those 2 curly brackets, that's piped text. So the basic way to use that is to the way I set this one up is to come down here in my email trigger. I click on this little A with the piped, with the curly brackets around it. This is my piped text. And I want this to go to the person. And they provided their email address on the survey. And in this case, it would be the person who is registering everyone else, because this is the only email address we have ready access to. So you can see this is what that gave me. Everything between the dollar, or is that the dollar sign and the curly brackets, that's my code. So I'm using my keyboard shortcut to Control X, and then I'll come up here and Control V. And that is going to be emailed to the person who registered, who filled out this registration form. The from name, you can fill that in. It doesn't have to be your own name. And then the reply to email address, we made this as Bruce, so that he would get, if somebody clicked on the reply, it wouldn't go to Qualtrics no reply email. Bruce would actually be notified if someone was trying to reply to this. And then the subject line. And then here is the content of the email. All right, so we've told them what they're registering for, and it has the payment that they're going to have to pay or that they should have paid, and make sure that it's paid before the registration deadline, which they had as October 16th, and then reminding them to mark their calendar for when. And then signature block, very important. Please, when you're using these, any type of communication through Qualtrics, make sure you're including your signature block.
Debbie, we do have 2 questions in the chat box. Yep.
All right, so only 1 credit card can be used for multiple registrations. So Jesse, do you want to address that?
Yeah, so if you're going to use this group payment method as opposed to requiring individuals to register on their own, then yes, only 1 credit card can be used for the payment of whoever fills out this Qualtrics registration. Otherwise, we wouldn't use this particular template for a group process. We would use an individual based template.
Yeah, so this is the group registration option. If you don't want people to be able to register as a group, like if you wanted those 35 bank employees to register separately, then just use the other basic type of survey. That's an option as well. So we have the different types of email triggers set up in here.
And one more question came in, Debbie. Pam says, does the NelNet registration get turned off after a certain date? Or if there's a late fee, how does that work? So the NelNet link is always active. So it's a matter of how long your registration survey link is active. And I think, Debbie, there are some options for making a link inactive after a certain date. Am I correct on that?
Correct. So back here on my project list, what I've been showing you all is the preview of these surveys. Some of them may already be closed. It doesn't look like anybody's closed these yet, but I know this one has already passed, for example. So if you want to close it so that no one else can register, just come over here to the ... I'm not going to do this, but this is what you would do. And then you can just say, close. But I didn't create that particular one. I think James Morris actually created that one. So let me see. So now I have the option to close that. Okay. So the person who creates the survey can also close the survey, and then it will stop collecting registrations. But again, I'm not going to do that to any of these.
And there
I
may
wanted
be an
to-
option to build in, you know, an early bird or late fee association with this, but that would probably require a little more either coding or, you know, just changing the template after a certain time and then updating the amounts or something like that.
Correct. You could also, I believe, put on a custom message when you do close your registration that tells people to contact your office to register for whatever it is that they, you know, you set up the registration for.
And one more quick note on, you know, people that offer the option to pay over the phone. That really should only be an option for those offices that do have a physical credit card terminal. With our payment card industry compliance, we are not able to enter a person's credit card information on their behalf on these web interfaces. So whether that be CVent or NelNet or whatever, security wise, we are able to do that over the phone for a terminal, but we cannot do that for e-commerce.
I'm going to show you one more here because we're getting down to the wire. I might try to show you the other one, but I definitely want to show the this food safety training. So this is like a serve safe training. So again, basic information. For this particular one, Amanda wanted people to be forced to register themselves. So she wasn't having the restaurant option, for example, pay for everybody. So they paid for themselves. So this one had one cost for level 2 and then one cost for level 1 and then the proctor only. So this one we used the recode values to tell NelNet how much to charge. Okay, so you see the 15,000, the 1,500 versus the 5,000, which, yeah. All right, and then this one was one where we have to use quotas because this is going to be an in-person type of thing. So eventually when Amanda comes back and puts the dates and times for each of these sessions in here, she hasn't finished this yet, but we'll be able to do display logic on these options. So for example, I don't have any quotas set up yet, but she'll have to have quotas. And then I'll come in here and set up a display logic where I can select a display. For example, if there's 20 people registered or the date already passed, this session 1 option will not appear for a person. So that's using quotas, and you can set up quotas on individual options. I believe, I don't know if Linda Good is on the call, but the 4-H cartoons from Miami County, we do have we're setting up some quotas on that one as well. Let's see. I wanted to show you down here, I've kind of changed the way this question appears because I wanted to show the different components of the redirect URL. So if you come into this table and you look, I have this third column here where you're going to be entering the piped text for whatever this is. So the amount that a person is going to be charged, that needs to be in this part of the URL. So I'm going to highlight that. Actually, I'm going to just delete it. I'm going to come over here to my piped text. I'm going to look for the survey question that has those prices in it. And then let's see, how do you want to pay? This one was under the which session do you want to attend? So this is the question that I need to select because this is where my recode values were. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to do selected choices, and then it shows you the Q question ID 41 choice group selected choices. So I'm going to take all of this, and I've done the same thing for each of these things. So I go in there and I look for what I'm not going to change this one actually. So I come in here and I look for the first name, and I do that same thing for pipe text. Okay, I copy and paste it from that pipe text. I'm going to come in here and then copy this entire column. And I'm just doing Control C on my keyboard. I think you can do right click as well. Then I'm going to go over to my Excel file because I did want to show you this cool little thing. And I'm going to enter this information here. So I'm going to do Control V on my keyboard. Actually, I'm going to do a right click and I'm going to do paste. Okay. So here you can see all of those items that I've filled in from the other survey are here, right? I'm going to come up here. I'm going to select my county from the drop down. So this is for Washington County. And then I'm going to come down here. I'm going to click on this button right here. It's going to generate the URL for me, and it's going to have it selected in the Excel file. So I can just come in here and do another Control C for copy. I can go back to my survey and go to survey flow, customize, and then Control V and enter that URL redirect code right there. So then you guys don't have to know how to create a URL. Does that sound like a good thing? Ingrid, I know that we kind of struggled with this, and Ingrid has done some coding in her life. So I wanted to create this Excel file that would kind of like do the work for you, so you wouldn't have to worry about, oh, how am I going to create this URL redirect? So I'm hoping that that's going to be a useful tool for everybody to easily create those URL redirects. Ingrid, what do you think? Does it look easier than what you had to go through?
Yes, I think this will work a lot better.
So this is why it's taken us a little bit of time to get these things, you know, going and moving. And I appreciate everyone's patience while we're doing this. So there was a couple other questions. Did I miss any questions?
Just one question from Christina, I think, that hasn't been answered.
Can an individual use an office computer to pay online?
I'm actually typing
being-
a response on that right now, Debbie. And the short answer is no. The university still hasn't changed their stance yet on this. So anybody registering or paying through NelNet has to use their own personal device. So this can be a cell phone. You know, this is mobile compatible. Or their own personal computer, but we cannot allow them at this point to complete a payment on a university-owned device. And I'm in ongoing conversations with the treasurer's office about this, about how we could allow for that. So say if we're going to, you know, have registrations at the door, for example, but somebody still wants to pay by credit card, may not have a smartphone, that we could allow them to, you know, use our laptop to submit a payment. But right now, that's not allowable.
Yeah, Jesse, that was my question too. Is what if they walk in to the office and we have a credit card machine in our office, and they say, okay, I want to pay, and is it still, do we ask them to pay on their phone right there, or is it okay if we take the credit card and bring it over to our office credit card machine?
However you would
And
like
run
to handle that, that's fine. So I mean, if it's for a registration like this, where it was set up for that option to pay, you know, over the phone or in person, you know, what we want to avoid is if we were expecting to see a NelNet payment and then they paid another way, you know, we have to, you know, make sure we're reconciling that somehow. So we're still recognizing their payment on their registration in the format that they processed it. So.
Okay, thanks.
Contact information for anybody who needs it.
Deborah asked real quick, so credit card machines are not going away in the future. That's true. We are not getting rid of terminals. If you have one and want to keep your terminal, or if you're interested in getting a terminal, these are still available. What the hope is that the NelNet platform is a little bit easier, a little less, you have to do the PCI training as one of the office associates that has the access to the reporting system and that sort of thing. But you don't, there's a lot of extra stuff with the credit card terminal that you have to maintain the monthly inspection report and do all the batch processing. And, so that's one more thing to reconcile. Whereas if you're not getting a lot of use out of your terminal, but still need the option for people to pay with credit cards, you're by all means allowed to stop using the terminal, and we can shut down that merchant account. But you do not have to get rid of your credit card terminals.
Well, and for all these surveys, what I didn't say was after you've created the survey and you've launched it, I would take that general URL, the anonymous URL, and create a Go link out of it. Just be careful when you're creating Go links that don't just call it MGV training, because there's going to be 88 MGV trainings out there, and you can only do the one. So you might want to include your first 4 characters of your county name. Just be careful when you're creating those Go links. Well, it won't let you create a Go link that's already been created, but.
And I just want to say a really big thank you to Debbie for taking this on and getting to nerd out on Qualtrics and pipe text and redirects here. We didn't even know that this was an option when we first started with the NelNet stuff. And somebody's question came up, hey, can we get this to bring in information from the survey? And Debbie jumped right on the challenge and really has done a lot of great work on this. So big thank you to Debbie.
My pleasure. Like you said, I got to geek out on it. And the Excel file that I showed you at the end there, Jesse is going to have a place on, I think, the operations website where
yeah,
you
I think
guys
we're going to put
have...
it on our operations website on the finance tab where the rest of our job aids and forms and stuff are. So we'll have that up there and available with the other NelNet job aids that we have.
And we'll also include, like, I'm going to try to make it as short as possible, but basically the email that you get back from me after I include you in the OSU extension user group in Qualtrics on how to set up and pull things out of the library, the OSU extension library. That's what we'll have, like a little one-pager that I'll have just basic information about how to start registration. Because if I try to put everything in there, it would be a lot. But we'll have some basic information in there and reminders of things that you need to do to make these surveys work. Thanks for everybody for hanging out with us and hanging in there. It was a lot of information thrown at you. It did get recorded, so hopefully the recording isn't too bad. And my computer didn't shut down. Yay! I still want to throw it out, though. It's a new computer. Should not be doing these.
Well, that was perfect timing. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thanks especially to Debbie and Jesse. We appreciate you all being here. And we will see you in the next session, which will be on Monday. So have a great weekend and go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
So
everyone.
Terry, do you know how they're doing the football game tomorrow?